before I came to this podcast today, I got on my knees and thank God that I was sober.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Lyfe Choyces podcast.
Yeah!
I understand that you have an interesting background because, as we discuss on this podcast, where you are now is not at all where you once were.
This wasn't in the wheelhouse of life at all.
So where, how, when, what, why? Let's get into it.
Man. Grew up in West Palm, Florida. Entire family, drug addicts, alcoholics, prison, death. And I was just like determined to not be that person. It took over. I took right into their footsteps. Luckily for me, it escalated, like some people's addiction, we'll call it, took very long. And it wasn't, the progress in it was very, decades later. Mine was like, boom. Like I paid consequences immediately.
So how young were you? I'm assuming drugs involved.
Yeah.
Alcohol?
Oh yeah.
Both. So everything. So pretty much every vice that takes you down the wrong path, you jumped into at a early age?
Oh yeah. Sex, drugs.
How young were you? When it really became a problem?
A problem? I mean, I started like experimenting maybe like 12.
Okay.
By the time I was 15, it was like, this is what we're doing forever.
Okay. And I'm sorry to ask, you're how old right now?
33.
33. Okay. So you're like the generation just after me. I find it interesting because I started smoking cigarettes May of my grade 6. So I was 11.
Yeah.
And then I got into drugs. The first time was September of grade 8. So I was 12. So it's very interesting how that just one generation below was still kind of, it was different times still because you were growing up without, but also with what we have now when it comes to platforms and social media and cell phones and all that sort of stuff. So it doesn't surprise me it started that young because when we were that young, that's kind of what was brought into our life at a young age, that you went to school. I say this like it was so normal. I feel like it was. You went to school and you don't really remember necessarily who or how it started, but you just remember being young and either smoking cigarettes or hash or weed. And for some of us, escalated one way or escalated another way. And you're saying by the time you were 15, it had gotten to the point where you had already done what? Like what drugs had you already accomplished?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like my household was different. Like my mom was sober. She got sober when I was right before I was born. So, but our household was like the dare lion. Like we don't do drugs here. Drugs are bad. And
dare lion. I love that.
Yeah. Like okay. It was like the joke, but my parents were serious about it. But my dad, he also was sober as well. But then he would just disappear and be gone. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I know this isn't normal. And then as a young boy, you're like, oh, I'm just not a good enough son, or I don't ride my bike fast enough, or whatever the hell a child thinks at that time. But it was the opposite. Like, it wasn't like, it wasn't normalized. Like drugs were like very bad. And like, it was pounded in my head that like, if you do drugs, you're going to go to prison or you're going to die. And it was just like that rebel in me that like was curious. Like, what's this hype about? Like, what do you mean I can't have sex? What do you mean I can't smoke weed? Like everyone does it. Like, it's not like you're just trying to prevent me from like having fun.
And that's what we thought, right? Because at that time, when we were of that age, let's just say between mid 80 and mid 90, most of what we saw was magazines, TV, movies, and it's always been portrayed as the life of the party, the fun, the rock star, the celebrity. What's wrong with sex, drugs, and rock and roll? That's a lifestyle. They've all survived it. Some of them are still alive. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting to me that you already said how you internalized it as a young person when your father disappeared, meaning he was obviously on a bender, whatever it was he was doing. It's interesting that the psychology behind it puts you in a situation of, am I not good enough?
Immediate. I mean, that's like that's the catalyst for the start of everything, I think. I still struggle with it today.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm very successful, but I still go to therapy. And our last session was, I made notes before I left, is that I am adequate.
Love it.
You know what I mean? Like, bird's eye view of my life. Like, yo, this fucking guy has got it going on.
And yet, there's still an underlining factor.
Bro. I got the chills now.
Yeah. Because there's always going to be self-work.
Yeah, man.
Right? Yeah. I try so hard to help others with this. The self-love that one needs to continuously practice in order to not just go up, but to maintain happiness. It's not an easy practice.
Correct.
So 15, you're trying all these different drugs.
Well, no. See, that's the thing, is that I thought I was smarter and I was different. And I put myself in that different category to justify bad behavior. And what I mean by that is they were doing cocaine. They were doing pills. I was just smoking weed. I'm not as bad as you. I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm not going to go to prison like my brother. So it was like, it's what kept me sick for only a couple of years, though. I was only able to do that for a couple of years. And then I was 15 and I robbed a convenience store.
Get the fuck out of here. 15.
Not with a gun or anything. It was just kind of how it happened. There was money out. I took it. I did it a couple of times. And then the last time I was like, well, fuck this. I'm taking all of it. At that point, I was just smoking weed. But that's like another addiction. Like, stealing was a big thing because I lived in my mom moved me out of West Palm into a small town in Ocala, Florida called Ocklawaha, which is like the Ocala National Forest. So I was a complete culture shock. I didn't fit in. Like, I wore Nikes, they wore boots. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a fucking culture shock. But I ended up finding the people that did what I did, skateboarded and smoked weed. I was like, all right, well, this is fine for now. And ended up getting sent away for 10 and a half months at 15.
Juvie?
No, I went to a wilderness program. My mom lied to me. So I went to, speaking on that, my mom lied to me. October of last year, I went to a retreat called Seeking Self. And in that retreat, I was like, all right, this is going to probably be, it was like inner child work. Because I'm always like trying to be better and like become the best version of myself. So I go there like, all right, my dad's definitely, speaking on my dad left, probably a lot of issues with my dad. I thought that's what was going to be brought up. In lieu of doing that whole retreat, it was all on my mom, bro. That my mom, like, her codependency, like, loved me to death. And she loved me in a way that I interpreted that she didn't love me. On top of the abandonment from my dad. So I felt like I had these two humans, like my most important humans, that didn't even love me. So if I didn't accept the love from my parents, how could my brothers, my teachers, my friends, like, nobody did. And that's like where I'm at now. Like, yo, I am adequate, that work that I'm doing today.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you figured all this stuff out at the young age?
No.
No, this is what you've been figuring out.
This is recent stuff. Oh, at the time I was just, I didn't even care to think about it because all I wanted to do was use and get high.
Okay. So I love the fact, and thank you so much for being the vulnerable human that we all are. Because, first impression, I see you walking up to the studio, good looking, well-built fella, you have this exterior look that this would not be something you would talk about. So I commend you on that you have the ability to speak in a form to let people know that this is where you're at. You've figured out at this point in your life at 30-something years of age, I am adequate. I am good enough. I have accomplished good things. I did not need to be that person that I was at a young age. On some level, grateful that you were.
100%.
Because that brought you to who you are now. You were 15 using, stealing, going down a road that I'm imagining possibly ended you up in jail.
Oh, eventually. Yeah,
eventually.
For sure. Yeah.
And hard drugs were coming into it or
not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
That was the thing. And I was like, why would you? So when I backtrack into, my mom lied to me because the courts, I got arrested for robbing the store. went to juvie for like the night. And my mom like called the DA, like, yo, you have to help my kid. Like, he is going to go to prison. And in my brain, I'm like, I'm smoking weed like a teenager. Like, I'm not doing what they're doing. But she loved me to the point where like, I'm going to try to seek help. And she knew. So I was only supposed to go there for like 90 days. So she's like, hey, you're going to go to the wilderness program. It's 90 days. They're going to change you, whatever fucking parents say. I'm like, all right, well, I'd rather do that than go to jail. I was 15. Like, we're not going to go to jail.
Wilderness camp sounds a lot better.
Wilderness camp sounds a little better. So I remember like going there the first day. I'm like, yeah, what's up, bro? Like, how long you been here? 10 months. How long you been here? 8 months. I'm like, fuck you guys. Like 8 months. Like, I'm only going to be here 90 days. And they all started laughing.
Oh, snap.
And I'm like, fuck, so funny. They're like, dude, this is a minimum 6-month program. Like, you'd have to be an angel to get out at 6 months. I'm like, what? And there's no phones. We're like, we're in the, like, there's no communicating with anybody. And I'm like, they fucking lied. She lied to me.
But for your benefit.
I find this out now, almost 2 decades later, that she just wanted me to be better. But that 15-year-old boy there alone was like, once again, she's trying to get rid of me. Because in one of those things that I found out at that Seeking Self seminar that I went to, when I was maybe 2-3 years old, I literally, supposedly, was hanging from ceiling fans. Like, they had to like lock me in my crib with like, my dad like built this like PVC thing because I would like sneak out of my room. ADHD, they called it, right?
Yeah.
So there was this place in Jupiter called Sandy Pines, which was like psychiatric unit for adolescents. So I was the youngest person ever admitted to that place. I was like 2 or 3 years old. And I remember like talking about this in this group at Seeking Self. And I just remember my mom like hugging me and then leaving. And I never forget, like, I was this huge room with this huge mirror and vanity. I was brushing my teeth and I'm like, why am I not home right now? But once again, like, my parents just wanted me, even then, no drugs, no nothing, just an innocent little boy, like, just wanting him to get better because they didn't know how to take care of me.
However, you were at an age where even if explaining it to you, you may not have understood. As a young infant, you are literally looking at the situation as abandonment.
Well, I don't think I could then. I think it comes into...
But it was put into your subconscious.
Yes. And until I did deep work on myself, didn't even realize it. Because there had been so much trauma that I had just buried and forgot. I had forgotten about that. And I feel like that's what, like, the addiction aspect and how powerful our brains are. Like, yo, we will bury that until it needs to come out, until you're in a place where you can work through it and become a better man. Once again, that was where that abandonment started. And I didn't know that at 15. I didn't know that until a year ago. Back to the abandonment, I thought, all right, once again, my mom is just trying to pawn me off because she doesn't love me. And that is the root of like my issues today, we'll call it, is that they don't love me. I'm not good enough. Why does somebody value me for me?
If you have all those questions, it's difficult, it's challenging to get yourself to a mindset of I am okay. Yeah. I do love me. Because we're admitting that's where it all starts. That's where the healing starts, is the self-love that one can create and one should have.
Correct.
But working on all these, I'll say it, I love the fact that you're working on all this stuff still to this day.
I have to. I want to be better. You cannot. There's a lot of people that I know that are just like okay with getting by. And I just am not a getter buyer. Like, I know that we'll get probably into this later, but like, I have a kid born in like any day now. Like, literally, it could be tonight. I want to be the best version of me for me, but so many other people get to reap the benefits when I become okay.
It is absolutely insane how many people, whether they can admit it or not, when you heal yourself as an individual, regardless of what your story is, there's no measurement of this person has it worse than that person. when you start healing yourself from anything and you start becoming the best version of you, you will notice, whether other people will admit it or not, you will see the benefits of your environment, the people around you, and how they act and how they react because of the way you have become. And when you are able to see that, for me, that means you're able to be present, which is the only thing we have. And when you have that ability to be present and witness that, the energy and the feeling that you then receive is unbelievable, because now you get to say, okay, I've accomplished all these things. Now I can do even more. And that opening up that level of, next level in the game is, I mean, if you feel better now, I'm telling you, it just gets better.
For sure.
If you stay on the path that you're doing.
For sure.
And the people around you, I mean, they'll just be happier. They'll be more energetic. People that you may think are dealing with things who are not comfortable with expressing it yet will start coming to you voluntarily to seek help.
Absolutely.
So how long did you end up going to this wilderness retreat? How long was your time there?
10.5 months.
10.5. Get the fuck
10.5 months.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's hectic.
10.5 months.
So you were how old when you went in?
15.
15 and still around the same age, like 15, maybe 16.
Yeah, well, 15 turned 16 when I got out.
When you got out. Okay. So here you are, 16. You've gone to a wilderness retreat, which is a place to go that is not juvenile, not juvie, to help you recreate the individual that you are.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Behavior modification is what they call it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Didn't work.
Fuck no.
Okay.
No.
So you get out.
And that's the thing, man. I always justified life in my own way. So I'm 16. Florida has like this 18 credit thing. You do 24 credits, 4 years, or 18 credits, 3 years. So I was taking, when I got out, I was 16. I was already a junior, technically.
Okay.
Because we did go to class in that wilderness program thing.
Makes sense. You were 15, yeah.
So I get out, I'm a junior. I never really went to school, though. I went to school, but I would leave, and I would do just enough to get by. But I fucking excelled, bro. I did like, my friends we would get our report cards and we would like have side bets, and I would always win. And like, how the fuck how are your grades so good? Like, you're never here. You don't do anything. And I like,
you just got it.
I just got it, bro. I knew how to like take tests. I like to pride myself on intelligence, but when you look back, like, you really weren't that smart. You know, and I have this saying, like, smart people stay drunk. Smart people stay high.
Oh, explain that.
Because we think we know it all.
Okay.
Like, you're not open to the idea of somebody else's opinions, direction. Like in these programs, like there was a lot of positive influence in males, role models, and it like sounded great. Like, if I could do this, but I'm like, but I know better because I'm not you. Like, or the people that like come into recovery and, you know, they can recite all the quotes in the book and the steps. And it's just like, yeah, like it sounds good. Like you can repeat it, but are you applying it to your life?
Are the actions behind the words?
Actions.
That's a big thing for people, because I can admit that myself. A large part of my younger years was I would always speak the words, but at the end of the day, I didn't do fucking any of it, dude. Like none of it. And it's literally been the latter part of my existence right now that I've put forth the effort to back it up with the action. Now I speak about it here. I don't speak about it too much out there because, again, I don't like to give unsolicited advice anymore. This is the platform on which I feel comfortable giving the information. But now what I do out there is I do the action. That is what I find more important. It's interesting, when I'm out in the world of my friends, I speak less, speak more here. And that's just the way I am, because I feel if I'm out there, I should just act, do the things I say, and hopefully the people in my environment, that will just get absorbed eventually, and then shortly they'll start implementing the same things that I'm acting on.
Absolutely.
So you get out of the program, you're doing good in school, you have good grades.
I'm smoking weed, and then I came down to West Palm to visit my dad. He was doing good at the time, and at this point, I'm like, I think I'm taking like ecstasy, like just try, but minimal.
That
because
one.
Yeah, that one. But it was minimal because I was scared. Like I I respected drugs probably differently than other people because I knew what that shit did. And I was like, there's this saying, like, if you can control it, you're not enjoying it. And when you enjoy it, it's out of control. And in the beginning, it was very controlled, but I wasn't getting the effect I really wanted because I wanted to be really, really high.
Yeah.
But I respected it in the beginning. And one weekend I was down there visiting. My dad accused me of doing cocaine. And that was the only drug I was like, I'll never do because you weren't here. And we probably should. I was selling cocaine in Ocala.
Okay.
But I wasn't using it because of my dad.
Smart businessman.
Yeah. In the beginning.
Yeah.
Horrible drug dealer, by the way. Horrible. And he accused me of doing cocaine, went back home to Ocala. The next day, I was like, all my friends were there. I just sold dope to everybody. And I was like, yo, make a line for me. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing, Doherty? I'm like, you heard me. Put one out for me. And I never fucking stopped.
Damn.
Never stopped. In that time, my mom relapsed with 22 years sober. I'm still living in her house at the time. And then I found out she was getting high. Like, I'm like, something's not right with my mom. Come to find out she was doctor shopping, all that fun shit. And I was like, I'm going to use this to my advantage. This is going to be our little secret. Nobody needs to know. And I started fucking selling pills for my mom. Not for my mom, but here's $100, Mom. Give me X amount of pills and let me go do my thing.
Little family business. Yeah.
I guess you could call it that. But it was more of like, I'm giving you this 100 so you just shut up and let me do what I need to do. Like,
right. I don't want to hear you chirping in my ear.
Exactly.
I'm the master of my own destiny.
Yep.
And this is what I'm choosing to do. I don't want to hear shit from you. Here's $100 of hush money.
Call it that. And then I started stealing them. And then it got to a point where I was like, yo, my mom's fucking reckless, bro. Like she always we had a nice house. My mom had a good career. But I was like, I can't live in this house no more. Like, I want to really go do what I want to do. So I moved out, and 2 weeks later, the guy that I moved in with was murdered in the house.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, bro. And
you weren't physically there when it happened.
No, I was doing a drop down in West Palm.
You just happened to be gone at that time.
Just happened to be gone. Was living with him. I went down to West Palm to drop off and pick up to come back to Ocala to do what I did. I remember telling my buddy, like, yo, the dude that you're hanging out with, I'm telling you, something's not right. I had been already in the streets. At this point, I'm 17. I'd already been in the streets.
Only 17.
Only 17, yep.
Already slinging coke.
Yeah.
Pills.
Yep.
Obviously doing everything.
Oh, yeah.
And when you say you've already been in the streets, you mean?
Like literally like in the hood, like doing what, because I didn't like the forest. Like I lived in the Ocala National Forest. Like that wasn't my game. That was my game for the people that were there because I was the plug.
Right.
Like they didn't go into the suburbs outside of the forest. I did. So I would come back into the forest and have all the weed, all the coke, I had everything.
Delivery man.
Yeah.
You were the guy.
And I remember telling my buddy, like, yo, this dude's going to fucking kill you. Like there's something not right with him. And I go to West Palm. I was on my way back and my mom calls me. Mark just got murdered in the house. Like, you can't go there. Like, fuck are you talking about? And I think that's, the visible line that people talk about, like that we cross. And at the time, like, once again, this is years of like work and like really like thinking back to like the time span of my life. Well, I went back into the house to get all my shit. And like, I would say like a week later, FBI came to my mom. I moved back in with my mom. FBI came to my mom's house with a D-Tech and everything. Homicide scene investigator. I'm like, what? Like, you need to sit down. I'm like, the fuck is going on? Fucking
FBI in the house.
I'm growing weed. There's a place I was growing weed at my mom's house. I had fucking shit everywhere. Guns were in there. I was like, this isn't good.
I'm venturing to think they already knew all that.
Mm-mm.
No, they had no idea.
No, because this had nothing to do with, I mean, they might have, but this had nothing to do why they were there. They were here for that murder.
Right.
And I ended up getting arrested that day for tampering. They had like 12 charges on me.
Fuck off.
For like tampering with a homicide. Because I went back into the house. And it was an active homicide scene.
Yeah.
And I took shit that was his. You know, like, I'm like, he's dead. Like, that's my drug addict brain. Like, who's going to get it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to get it. Ended up going away again.
Now, you're 17.
17.
So still juvie or back
still
to...
juvie.
So actual juvie.
Actual juvie. So I did a few months there, and then they sent me to another program in the Panhandle. And I only did like 6.5 months there. I did 6.5 months there. And then I turned 18 while I was there. And when I got released, I was on the probation that I was on was drug man. Like, I couldn't get high. Like, if I got high, I had to finish my sentence in prison.
But you're still an addict at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know. I knew about recovery. I could quote it all, but it didn't. I have this saying, like, if I was judged by my intentions and not my actions, I'd be a stand-up guy. But my actions never matched my intentions. I didn't know how to. That's
you're a kid. You're a child.
Well, I think that's where the recovery comes in, is that, like, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that I didn't have a choice, that no matter what, I was going to get high again. Without something, power, universe, energy, Jesus, Buddha, something had to intervene in my life to help me not pick up.
And I'm sure that didn't happen for a while.
No, it didn't. So 2 weeks later, I'm already getting high again.
While you're on this probation,
While I'm
you
on it.
cannot get high. So you have to do drug tests or something.
Every month.
Every month. Once a month.
Or random.
Fuck.
I'll never forget. I'm snorting Roxy's. My phone rings. It's my PO. Hey, you have an hour to be here. But in my mind, I'm like, I know I'm going to prison anyway.
So fuck it.
Why am I... Like, who are you kidding, dude? Like, you're going to go to prison anyway. You're never going to stop getting high. Just go to prison, do your time, and then hopefully you'll have a revelation. And when you get out, you won't get high again. That's how I was.
So you went, did the drug test, failed.
No. But wait, there's more.
I love it.
So I'm fucking telling my boy, like, bro, we need to go do this drug test. I'm like, we need to go buy something. He's like, where are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm going to this place. He's like, you got $300? I'm like, of course. Because that's the other, of course, right? That's the justification. That was like me justifying that I'm not like these other drug addicts out here. I've got $300 in my pocket. I'm
right. You're not on the street, homeless at this point, scrounging for money, trying to find that next hit. Exactly. You've got cash in the pocket. Exactly. You've got all the drugs that you want. You're supplying others. Like, you're the fucking king.
I'm good. Yeah. I'm just getting high. Yeah. And I'll figure it out. He's like, bro, if you pay so-and-so, do you go see this guy? I'm like, yeah, I go see the guy. He's like, give him $300. You'll get a clean test. I'm like, no. He's like, yeah. Go there, give the guy $300. Huh. All right, see you next month. I'm like, perfect.
And not enabling the fuck out of it.
Perfect. I'm like, now that stress is gone. Now we are going to go balls to the wall.
Well, yeah, we can do as much drugs as we want. I got clean tests every time I go. I don't have to go to jail. I am unfucking stoppable.
And I really thought I was. I was 18. I was doing illegal telemarketing, making thousands of dollars. I had my own vehicle, my own apartment, had jewelry. I was like, I'm the fucking man. I'm not a drug addict. Everybody else thought I was. You guys are haters.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Taking care of my shit, motherfuckers.
Exactly.
18, male, clearly the worst time psychology possibly could have in your own brain. Yeah. You know, like unbeatable, I'm the king, pocket full of money, but major fucking problems.
Yeah. And underneath all of that is one word that dictated and controlled my life. Fear. Fear.
Which you didn't find out till much later.
100%. I didn't know that then. I look back now, I was like, your life was even today as I'm here, fear of whatever situation I'm going to, it's always there.
Fear of what? Of falling back?
No, just the fear. For example, I'm having a kid soon.
Right. Well, that's
I'm talking with my girl last night. And I'm like, what are you afraid of? And it's like, I don't really know, but I know that there's fear there because fear is the lack of control.
Okay.
And, you know, amongst other things, but I don't know what it's going to be like. I've been a bachelor for the last decade, like all of these things that are going through my head, but fear at the time when I was looking, you know, I look back at it now, like fear, the man that I thought I was, the cool, you were just scared to death Scared to death.
Wearing a facade.
100%.
Interesting.
So that's 18,
Mm-hmm.
19,
Mm-hmm.
18 and a half, right to 19. So life is going. I'm getting high. I dabbled in AA, like, all right, maybe I have a problem, but the people that I were hanging out with, like the story, I kind of always say it when I speak in places. I'm like, my buddy got in my car. I had just copped. I had just sold him his pills. He's like, hey, pull over. I'm like, where? He's like, pull over. And then we're like at a canal bank down the street from here. I'm like, for what? He's like, I need some water. He's going to shoot the pills.
Ah, gotcha.
I'm like, motherfucker, like, it's $1 for a Zephyr Hills bottle. Like, no, I need you to stop now. Justification. I'm like, bro, I'll never be like you. I'm never going to be that bad. That's like 18 and a half. I'll never forget that. And then we went somewhere to sell some shit. He ended up like smoking crack. And I'm like, bro, you can't get back in my truck. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't fuck with people that smoke crack. Like, I'll sell you crack, but you can't.
That's
like,
different.
Yeah, like you can't like hang out with me like you're a fucking crackhead. Like you're like my dad. You know what I mean? I'm maybe 19. I total my truck. Not this thing. Things are bad. I'm doing fucking 20 Roxys a day, 20 bars a day, smoking weed all day long. I'm literally waking up to find a way to get high. You know, hustle, cop, run out. Hustle, cop, run out. That's all that I was doing. And then I totaled my truck.
While high?
Well, I left a party, which I never got invited to a parties because I was all fucked up. And my brother was in town. He's like, yo, come to the party. I'm drinking. I didn't really think I was that high. They're like, bro, you probably shouldn't drive or drunk. And it was raining like super bad. I pull out of the neighborhood. I total my truck into the back of my brakes locked up and I just slid and totaled my car. Now I got dope on me, all that on me.
Anyone else hurt?
I don't know. Because I left. I'm on Del Rey.
What did you hit?
A car.
No.
Yep. But I knew I couldn't stop. I'd definitely go to prison. Yeah. So I leave, the airbags deployed. I hit so hard that I knocked like the windshield and the blinker tabs off. And so I had no lights, no windshield wipers, pouring down rain. So it was right on Lytton Boulevard. So I tried to like go on to the on-ramp to go back north to my house. And I missed it. I missed the turn. So I go into the swale. You know the swales of like 95? Go into the swale, U-turn, I had to U-turn at where I hit the car to get back on the 95. And I did. U-turn, went back. I got from Lytton to Forest Hill with a smashed motor, no windshield. I took my shirt off and was like wiping it on the windshield so that I could see. That's how bad it was raining. And my truck died in the driveway. And I never had a vehicle for 4 more years after that day. Well, probably longer, but.
Did you get caught?
No, I got away.
The fuck?
I got away. Next day I wake up. I'm like, oh fuck, like the car is totaled and I have no money to fix it. So now I'm carless. And that's how I made my money. I couldn't no longer do what I was doing. Like 2 days later, the guys that I was buying pills from, because I don't smoke crack, you know, he's like, hey, can I use my girlfriend had a car. Her mom let us use her car for like a weekend. Used the car, gave us like 10 pieces of crack. I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm just going to sell it, make some money, go get what I need. And I remember staring at it in my hand. And this is the first thought that I had. I'm like, this is what my dad chose over me my whole life. Now, I have nothing in my life. Right? I got some clothes. I'm like, I'm not homeless at this point, but I'm like, fuck it. And I remember fucking trying to smoke crack like I knew what I was doing. It's a process, by the way. You can't just, it's not like weed where you just pack it in a bowl. You know what I mean? And I didn't like it. Thank God. I was like, this is fucking stupid. And then I tried it again. I was 19. So from 19 to 22, I lived between 5 traffic lights. From Lake Worth Boulevard to Forest Hill Boulevard on Military Trail.
Like
homeless, smoking crack, walking the streets, weeks at a time.
So you went from being the dealer,
yeah,
having coin, car. It doesn't just happen overnight. Like you started doing crack at that point.
Well, it did for me though. That's what I was talking about in the beginning. Like to me, there was no progression. Like it was quick.
Like a matter of a week.
Well, because I didn't have a vehicle.
Right.
I couldn't get around.
So you
and I
couldn't
didn't have
sell
enough
drugs
resources.
anymore.
I had fucked everybody over somehow.
Okay.
Because it was getting, like I was just using opiates in bars at the time. Like it just controlled my life. And then I started smoking crack, and the shame and the guilt of me doing that, like there was no asking my family for help. Like there was no, we're going to go as far away as possible and just figure this thing called life out.
So you're living, like you're not even living like near the 95 where you have an overpass.
No, I'm literally just walking. I mean, I wasn't sleeping. That's how I'm like, I'm not homeless because I don't sleep. I'm up for 2 weeks at a time. All day, all night, walking the streets.
Where are you receiving the crack?
Well, there's drug dealers everywhere. And I mean, I had some people that would bring it to me or people right there on the street.
What about money in order to
stealing?
Fuck.
Yeah. So that goes in. I'm not a good drug addict, and I'm not a good criminal or a good thief because I get caught all the time.
So you said from 19 to
22. Now, in that time frame, I was arrested 30 times.
I was going to ask.
30 arrests.
Arrested 30 times.
Well, from 18 to 22, because when I was still had a vehicle, I got caught for possession intent.
So in and out of jail?
Yeah, in and out of jail.
Now, any long periods of time once you started doing crack, or was it more like being arrested for being a vagrant or
being arrested for like simple possession? I mean, you don't have a lot of
personal use.
Personal
right.
use.
But it's crack. It's
correct. It's paraphernalia.
Right.
Grand theft. I would like break into cars or whatever I was stealing at the time in the middle of the day. Like I didn't give a fuck. Like go into your house in the middle of the day. Like whatever. What the fuck? And there were small charges. So Florida is based on a point system. They're like a felony.
So you're going in and out maybe a couple of days, maybe a week, but you're not going in for long.
Nope. Like it was like maybe 30 days, 90 days, the max. And you know, this is where it gets interesting is that every time I got arrested, I was like, all right, this time it's going to be different. This time I'm going to go to AA. I'm going to get a sponsor. I'm going to get a home group, and I'm going to do what they've been telling me to do for the last 5 years. And that's where that are my intentions. My intentions was to walk from the catwalk at Gun Club to a clubhouse, an AA clubhouse. And for 30 times, I never made it to a bed sober. I always left and walked to military and got high. Every single time. Because I didn't have a choice, bro.
You thought you didn't have a choice.
Well, the reality of it is that when you break down my belief system of what I believe in the big book, the AA book, is that my willpower is practically non-existent without the help of something more powerful than me. That it's inevitable that I'm always going to get high without a divine intervention.
When did that happen?
The last time I was arrested. So 30 times, 90 days, 6 months here, but minimal stays, always going back to the streets. And every single time I was like, all right, this time I'm going to go get sober. This time. And it never happened. The last time I was arrested, they revoked my bond. I remember and that was the only time that the last time that I got arrested, I was like, all right, I'm not going to get sober. We've made that clear. Like, there's no, don't even try. You cannot do it. Leave here, try to get bonded out somehow, some way, manipulate somebody, and go do what you do. And I was trying to, and they revoked my bond, and I had to wait 60 days for my next court date. I leave court. They offered me a year in prison. And I was like, that's crazy. This is a simple charge. I'm not signing that. And I remember going back to jail from the courthouse down here. And I'm walking back to my cell, and middle of the day, it's like probably 1 o'clock after court. The guy is on his knees praying in the middle of the day. Never seen the guy, never talked to him, never met him. He never talked about God, preached about God. I just seen him on his knees. And I reflected back to the times that I would go to the AA things, and they would talk about God, and, well, God didn't love me. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, I walked to my bunk and I got on my knees. And I said, God, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you are, but I need to get to know you. Because if I don't, I'm going to die or I'm going to go to prison for the rest of my life. And I got the goosebumps again. And in that moment, bro, I knew that that was reality. And that had been a reality for me for 5 years.
And you were how old?
22. And I knew that like something had to be, I had to do something.
Seeing this other human being just simply on his knees, doing what one would assume is praying.
Yep.
Because that's definitely an image that you connect with, that visual. You had the foresight to go to your cell and open up not just the conversation, but the relationship with God.
Correct.
What happened?
With no intention that anything would really happen.
Right.
Because that falls into what we were talking about earlier with the adequate. Like, am I adequate enough? Like, am I loved enough for this thing that works for whatever religion? I don't really get into all that. Is there something more? Is there something that's so powerful that would even listen or love me enough for there to be a change? And I didn't know, but I had never done it. And I was willing to try. I was willing at that point to try something a little different. I remember saying the prayer and I didn't, some people have like white lightning experiences or like they just immediately felt different and I did not. In the big book, they talk about like an educational experience that's like drawn out over time. And that's kind of what happened. I ended up doing a year, April 30th, 2013. It was just another year for me. Like I had done that shit so many times. It just the same cycle every single day. The difference is that every day before I like went into the rec yard or whatever it was, I would just get on my knees and I would pray. And I went to the meetings there and I didn't really have any like spiritual experiences while there, except the day that I knew I was getting released. I remember that evening because my mom was going to pick me up. I'm like, all right, I got on my knees and I'm like, if you just help me get to a bed sober tonight, I don't know if it's going to work like long-term, but like, just help me get to a bed sober. And it was the first time out of 30 incarcerations I had ever made it to a bed sober. I owned nothing. I didn't even have a pair of shoes when I got arrested. And that was 2000. I got released February 19th, 2014.
I think it's absolutely remarkable. Everyone has a different point in their life that they get brought back to what I call faith. Because with you, the religion idea of it, that's a conversation for another day. When one chooses to come into their own faith, whatever it is that you believe is that God, when you open that relationship, from my experience, he's at the door. People don't realize he's on the other side of that door. He's not knocking.
No.
Because he can't come in unless you want him to come in. But when you get yourself into a position to be okay with accepting you opening that door and start that relationship, I don't know a single person that I've talked to about this that has not gotten a positive reaction from that first choice of, I want to start this relationship. What can we do together? Because it's not just God save me. It's I want to save me as well, but I need help. And it's like anything else. People say like, it's hard to ask for help, but once you do, it gets easier. So you're 22, 30 times in and out, living on the streets, drug addict, selling drugs. The shit you have gone through by the time you're 22 years of age, most people would have no fucking clue how to deal with it. And now you are back at your mom's?
No one helped me, bro.
No one. So where are you living at this time?
My mom let me stay there for like 2 days. There was like this county like program that I'll call it that gave you like 30 days in a halfway house. And that's where I went. I went there for 30 days. They gave me an extension for 30 more days. I got a job in Miami, toting concrete for like $10 an hour to a meeting every single day. That's what they told me to do. Go to a meeting every single day, get a sponsor, get a home group. The cliche shit.
Right. But but for you,
for
it
me,
worked.
I was like, well, I'll try it. I have nothing else. I have no career. I've never worked a legit job, never paid taxes. I got to do something. Didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew that it was better than fucking eating out of the Dunkin' Donuts dumpster, on Military Trail. And I told myself, if I just stay sober, more doors will open.
Facts.
And I didn't know what doors those were. And to me, and that's why I'm so grateful for how shitty of a life it was for 3 years. Probably more, but we'll call it the 3 years. Like, I will be forever grateful.
The 3 years after getting out?
No, the 3 years before getting sober.
Okay.
Like, how shitty they were.
I mean, it really brought you to your knees.
Literally.
Right?
Yeah.
To the point where there seemed to be no other way to go but up.
Correct.
You had hit a rock bottom that is unlike most people.
Correct.
I have to imagine it had been, let's say 22 to close to 30, a very tough uphill battle to get you to where you are currently.
I mean, definitely a lot of work. I don't really want to consider it a battle.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that it wasn't really that difficult. I mean, it was difficult. I mean, when I look back, like, yes, it was a battle. It was a struggle, but I knew I just had this life was so different. It was a life that I had, like, I was paying my own cell phone bill. I started paying my own rent. I was eating every day. I looked decent. Like, people like were saying hi to me and like inviting me out to dinner. Like, that shit was foreign to me for a long time.
Well, you had let go of who you once were, which is what we have to do to become the best version of ourselves is you cannot change if you do not let go. Fortunately, once you let go of who you once were, you started seeing the benefits of people being kind to you because you were no longer a person that people didn't want to be kind to. So much has gone on in your life.
Yeah.
Like, so much. Like, the fact that you went all the way that way to being homeless and doing things that are probably very difficult for the average human being to grasp. Like, why would you ever go down to that point in your life? Now, today, you are a business owner of a successful luxury remodeling company.
Correct.
Really not that long of a time since getting sober, because you're 33. So 22-ish, 33. 15 to 22, right? And then boom, here you are sitting on a platform where other people, an unlimited amount of people will be able to see this program of you sharing your story. And you are now currently sitting here as a business owner. You're in a healthy relationship. You're about to have a child any day now.
Yeah.
Right? And that instantly lit up your face.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. How did you get yourself from getting into the program, getting that 30-day and then extension for 30-day, which clearly helped you stay sober, getting to bed sober, all the way to the point of owning your own company? You have a record.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that like kept me out there for so long. Like, who's going to hire a felon? I got 13 felony convictions. Like, who the fuck's going to give me a job? And I didn't know that any of this was in the wheelworks. I just wanted to like be happy. And I didn't know what that even meant. I just knew that it was different than how I was living. And, I started at $10 an hour, and then my brothers are in construction. So they gave me a job once I stayed sober long enough. And I was like, well, I've been sober like maybe a year or two at this point. I'm like, well, maybe I can like go out on my own. Like, I'm pretty smart. I got my shit together. I finally got a car, and I started a handyman company in 2015. It was just a little bit more than what I was making at a paycheck, but I didn't know how to be a business owner. I was like, scheduling and advertising and like doing these things, and I did that for a year. And then I like pay taxes. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
Lose 1/3 of everything.
Yeah. And then in 2016, I was confident in my sobriety. I knew that like if I had anything in life that is worth value, we put insurance on. Life, vehicles, homes. And my insurance policy for me staying sober was to continue to do the things that I had done that got me to the point where I was at.
Fuck yeah.
I've never left my bed. without getting on my knees. Before I came to this podcast today, I got on my knees and thank God that I was sober and for another opportunity. And when I get in my bed tonight, I'm going to get on my knees before I go to sleep and thank him for another day, amongst a whole bunch of other prayers in between and stuff. But like, I still go to meetings. I still have a sponsor. I go to therapy. Like, I did all of these things and I still do them today. And 2015, I was like, well, in 2000, I was confident enough in my sobriety to like do something, like take an extra step. So I rebranded my company as, instead of a handyman, a contractor. And I just owe it to like doing the next right thing when no one's looking.
And that is a fucking key to success.
Yeah, bro.
What you just said there, doing the right thing when no one is looking. Perfect.
It happened yesterday. So I had a client. I do a lot of work with other contractors because I have an interior design center as well. That's another business that I have. And I sold them some countertops. The lady, she paid for them in full. The countertops got installed. And she came and she's like, I just do not like them. I'll repurchase the slab and I'll pay you for the slab and pay you for the labor to redo them. And I pulled up her old invoice to verify that she did get what she paid for. And on the invoice, she got double charged for her installation. And when she came in, I'm like, hey, it's going to be this much for material, this much for labor. And I told my manager yesterday, like, hey, just send her the material invoice, not labor. She's like, why? I'm like, because I seen that I double charged. She already paid me twice
For labor.
for the labor. So she does the client. I haven't even called her yet because I just found this out yesterday, that she's going to get that, not essentially for free, but I could have recharged her again.
Right.
3 times for something that I only did twice. And like, it's those things. Nobody would have known. No one in the world would have known.
But you would have known.
But I knew. And she's like, why are you doing this? I'm like, because it's just the right thing to do. She's like,
Right.
I fucking love you. I'm like,
So your manager, meaning the person that works for you,
Correct.
in your company.
Yeah.
So I love that. So how many companies do you now own?
like 5.
5 companies. All within the construction field?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
I own a remodeling company.
Yes.
I own an interior design center where I wholesale and sell, cabinets and luxury products to clients and contractors. I'm part owner with my brothers. We own Windy City Pizza in Delray. I own Airbnbs with my dad, and I own a call center with my little brother.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we're not going to get into it today, but the fact that you own something with your dad, that's something we're going to need to get into.
I got
later
the
on.
chills again, bro. It's
Yeah,
fucking powerful.
that is insane. We are going to wrap it up today. I want to thank everyone out there for watching this episode. And I want to thank you so very much for coming and being vulnerable and putting your whole story out there for people to see, because you are a visual proof that it does not matter which rabbit hole you go down to. You can pull yourself out. We're going to find out next time you come by a bit more detail on what exactly it was, your practices, your praying, all the things that you do on a daily basis to keep you above water. We're going to find out how your relationship obviously got better with your father, that you now own company with him, how you ended up creating 5 different companies that are all successful across the board. I know the vehicle you ride in because, you told me, and then I saw it outside. Your story is phenomenal. Like, it's unbelievable, almost to the point where I think someone could make a movie out of what you've done with your life. I want to say thank you for being you, because what you have accomplished in life is undoubtedly fucking amazing. I'm so grateful for Jeremy introducing us. I am looking so forward for a mutual friendship to be built here and for you to come back on this podcast regularly. And because I already know you want to start your own podcast on whatever niche that might be, I got you.
My man.
Anything you need, dude.
No,
Thank you
grateful
so much for
today's
coming out.
experience, man.
Again, Austin, like, remarkable, dude.
Thanks.
And you clearly have proven to yourself that you are enough beyond that. So, and I wish you best of luck with the new coming child.
Thanks, man.
That's crazy.
Baby Knox.
We're gonna Baby Knox?
Yeah.
Oh, love it. Okay. We're gonna get into that too in our next session. I'm gonna have you back next week to record.
I'll be here.
That's an absolute for sure. For all of my viewers out there in the Lyfe Choyces YouTube land, thank you very much for coming by each and every week to follow us and subscribe. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. here on the Lyfe Choyces podcast. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You are now about
The Journey, Life Choices podcast.